Over the last couple of months, we've seen a very interesting situation that epitomizes what's going on in college football. Xavier Lucas was a 4-star recruit in the class of 2024 who ended up having a really good freshman season at Wisconsin and was given a lot of hype. Like any player would do in the modern college football era, they're going to try to get as much money and as much of an opportunity to bolster their future as possible. With the NIL landscape being a wild, wild west, waiting on house settlements and regulations, a lot of these players don't necessarily know what to do. Xavier would end up signing with Wisconsin, as in the coming months there would be revenue sharing. But behind the scenes, there's some stuff that happened. His father ended up getting sick, and Miami came in at a weird time and all of a sudden got him to flip very quickly. Wisconsin ended up smelling something fishy and decided not to officially enter him in the portal, but he transferred anyways. It's caused a ton of confusion right now, and the Xavier Lucas case is one of the top stories in college football in 2025. In today's video, we're going to talk about this player. We're going to talk about why he became so highly regarded, the entire situation, why people are now suing, and what I think this means for college football as a whole. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about Xavier Lucas. Okay, so in order to understand how he got to this point, we do first need to go back in time. Lucas would come out of the state of Florida, and after blowing up, he would get 28 offers. He ended up putting up really good numbers as a safety, but he later moved to corner, and it would come down to Miami, Florida State, and Wisconsin for his recruitment. Wisconsin had shown a lot of love for him since day one, and he had a great relationship with Luke Fickell and Paul Haynes on the staff. Florida State and Miami also had a very strong pitch, but he would end up settling on Wisconsin. He had become a star at American Heritage High School, as he had finished with 46 tackles and 4 interceptions as a senior and was part of the all-county team. According to 24/7 Sports, Xavier Lucas was a 4-star recruit, the number 35 safety, and the 372nd best player in the class of 2024. So how would this guy end up doing at Wisconsin? Well, expectations were high coming in for him, but it seemed he met every single challenge early on, as he made the Week 1 2-deep depth chart despite not being an early enrollee. That is not very common in college football. His first game against Western Michigan, he ended up starting his career out with a bang, as he had a one-handed interception that dazzled Badgers fans. Through 7 games, he had become the 6th highest graded freshman in college football, and that was according to PFF, so he was starting to really build his name. He'd appear in 12 games last year for the Badgers, finishing with 18 tackles, 2 TFLs, 2 pass deflections, and that one dazzling interception. Knowing he had lots of talent, Wisconsin decided to get him signed, but then things became really interesting. This whole saga would begin when Lucas would ask Wisconsin to enter his name into the transfer portal after just 1 season with the school. Wisconsin would deny his request, claiming the 2-year revenue sharing agreement that he had signed on December 2nd was binding. He additionally had signed a separate deal with Wisconsin's NIL collective. On paper, it looks like he was stuck in a mousetrap here. One university official said, quote, "Under the terms of the agreement between Xavier and Wisconsin Athletics, it remains in effect and enforceable. Badger student athletes who have signed these agreements expect Wisconsin's athletics to honor their terms, and in turn, we rely on them to sign these agreements and do the same." It makes sense to me. 2025 would mark the first year that schools can sign revenue-sharing contracts with players and directly pay them for their services. However, the contracts are not technically allowed until the House settlement reaches final approval. That's where things get really interesting. Wisconsin and Lucas had struck a 2-year deal, and that was set to begin on July 1st, which is the first day that schools can directly compensate athletes. Because of the agreement, Wisconsin would refuse to enter Lucas's name into the portal after he requested a transfer. But he would decide to withdraw from classes and enrolled academically at Miami back in January, which was a move to skirt the NCAA rules requiring athletes to enter the portal and communicate with another school. Lucas would enroll for the fall of 2025, but reclassified for the spring. Lucas's attorney ended up telling Yahoo Sports in January that he planned to file an antitrust lawsuit against Wisconsin if Lucas was unable to complete his move to Miami. He accused Wisconsin of blatantly violating NCAA rules by not inserting Lucas's name into the portal as he requested, and would question the legality of the NCAA's transfer portal in general. But I still personally don't get it. With the revenue share agreement, this binded Lucas and all players who signed to that specific school and grants that school a player's non-exclusive rights. The agreement prohibits the player's rights to be used by any other school. According to the template, it also prohibits the player's rights to be used by any other school. That's what's interesting here, is I don't really know the status of this contract. If he was in fact signed by Wisconsin, it would mean he can't do anything with Miami, unless the transfer became official. 2 weeks into the opening of the transfer portal window last December, Lucas had shown full commitment to Wisconsin, according to Wisconsin articles. He apparently, quote, shocked and surprised the coaching staff with his request to transfer, and his claim was that over the holidays, his father suffered a serious life-threatening illness, meaning he'd want to go closer to home. But, in its suit, Wisconsin actually questioned his rationale for seeking a transfer, writing that he, quote, provided inconsistent information to coaches on December 21st, 4 days after he originally asked for his name to be inputted into the portal. Okay, that's where things take a turn. In my opinion, if the whole thing with his dad was true, then I agree with it. If it's not true though, I'm on Wisconsin's side 100%. Wisconsin's suit also claimed that Miami had multiple impermissible contacts with Lucas during December and January, and that included a Miami coach and a prominent Miami alum visiting his home in December with a, quote, compensation commitment for him to leave Madison. The offer was more lucrative than the one that Wisconsin made. In order for a player to transfer, they're required to submit a transfer request inside the designated transfer portal window. Entering the portal is necessary as it then allows schools to contact and communicate with you. Schools are prohibited from contacting with those not in the portal as they risk violating NCAA rules related to tampering. One of the big issues with this is that every single school in the country is tampering. I don't care what anybody says. There are no boosters or NIL people or coaches that are not in some way, shape, or form reaching out to players, as a lot of the timing is just too crazy. Sometimes just hours or even minutes after a player enters the portal, they're being crystal balled somewhere else, they're on a flight, they're talking to someone, or they're already making a commitment to a new school. There is no possible way that tampering is not going on. Maybe in some cases the communication is legal, but that's more the spirit of the law. But if you follow the letter of the law, a lot of this stuff is pretty much illegal. Lucas then claimed he was stuck in purgatory, as schools would not communicate with him in order to avoid violating those rules. Honestly, I don't even know what he means by that, because he was already pretty much committed to Miami at the time. So was he trying to entertain other offers too? I don't know. But according to his attorney, Lucas and his family, in an act of desperation, reached out to Luke Fickell for an explanation and to reconsider the decision. They then claimed the coach instead attempted to convince Lucas to remain at Wisconsin. But yeah, in the suit that I have been talking about in the video so far, it came out in June, and it was a landmark moment in college athletics, as this is the first time one university has filed suit against another for poaching of a college football player under contract. Wisconsin is seeking unspecified financial damages and a declaratory judgment, deeming Miami's actions as wrongful for interfering with a binding revenue share contract, and I'm sure this is going to cause a lot of fallout. Neither side wants to budge, and the three parties are Wisconsin, Miami, and Xavier Lucas himself. Wisconsin's ultimate claim is that Miami communicated with Lucas, knowingly inducing him, despite knowing he had entered a contract with the school, in something they termed as intentional interference that was not justified or privileged and caused Lucas to breach his contract. What's also interesting is that the Big Ten Conference is supporting the suit against Miami, as they said, quote, "We stand by our position that respecting and enforcing contractual obligations is essential to maintaining a level playing field. In addition to our legal action, we will continue to be proactive to protect the interest of our student athletes, our program, and the broader collegiate athletics community as a whole." This is just the first case in what I believe to be many. It is nuts out there in the transfer portal world, and nobody knows what's going on. Of course, something like this was going to eventually happen, as there are so many moving pieces, and honestly, I have my opinion on this. Maybe I'm dead wrong and I'll have to retract it at some point, but here's how I think it's going. I think Wisconsin's in the right, Xavier Lucas got bad advice and is just trying to do what's best for his career, and Miami ultimately is the thief here. I have nothing against the Hurricanes, but this is not the first time Miami has been in hot water for NIL stuff, and also secondarily, I hope his dad is alright, but I'm not necessarily sure having your dad be sick is a way of legally getting out of a contract. Again, I don't know the details there, and I also cannot find anything about the potential life-threatening illness he had. So to me, here's what I think happened. The season came to an end for Xavier Lucas. He had a lot of hype and potential, and he ended up getting signed by Wisconsin. They told him that the revenue sharing would start up this summer, and they got him locked in for their NIL collective. But after getting illegally contacted by Miami, he saw what he was actually worth and could make more money. He then found a really good lawyer that would help him get out of the situation and find a way for him to legally get out of this mess. Right now, there is so much ambiguity, so much of a gray area, and so few cases like this that it was pretty much going to be a grand slam for him to win the case or at least get out scot-free. Wisconsin's not happy about this, but they know there's not really anything they can do except make an example out of him. Ultimately, I think Xavier Lucas will get off scot-free here, but if I had to pick a side, I think Wisconsin's in the right, and Miami likely did something here illegal, but they are not the only school. I'm sure pretty much every program is doing this, but to me, it just calls to action that we need more regulation, we need more rules, and there's got to be a way to fix this. But who knows? What do you guys think? If you're a Wisconsin or a Miami fan, what do you think of this Xavier Lucas situation? How do you think things played out? And what's another topic I can cover in my next video? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all of the videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.